On April 30th, 2017, before dawn broke over the Himalayas, Ueli Steck left Camp 2, his breath clouding in the frigid air. It was meant to be just another training climb toward his Everest, Nuptse dream. He moved quickly toward Nuptse, a dark figure against the ice, unaware that this would be the final morning of his life. The mountains loomed silent, the sky impossibly clear. By midday, the world's fastest alpinist would never return, leaving only questions in the thin air. Ueli Steck was born on October 4, 1976, in Langnau im Emmental, Switzerland, a small, picturesque town framed by rolling hills and the distant teeth of the Alps. The youngest of three brothers, he grew up in a household where sport was more than just recreation. It was a way of life. One of his brothers would go on to play professional ice hockey. For Ueli, the pull was in another direction, upward, toward the sheer faces of stone and ice that marked the horizon. At 12, he first put his hands on Real Rock, introduced to climbing by a family friend. The boy was small, quiet, but intense. What he lacked in physical size, he made up for in precise movement and natural sense of balance. By the time he was a teenager, he was climbing at a level that stunned seasoned mountaineers. At 16, he was already operating at the 9th difficulty grade on the UJ scale, a level that most climbers work decades to achieve. By 18, he had stood atop the legendary north face of the Eiger and conquered the Bonatti Pillar on Mont Blanc. From that point, the Alps became his training ground, his playground, and his classroom. Ueli had no desire to be just good. His obsession was to be better, faster, more efficient than anyone who had come before him. While other climbers thought of speed as a bonus, for Ueli it was a craft, a discipline in itself. He would later describe speed as not just about moving quickly, but about perfecting every single movement until there was no wasted motion, no unnecessary gear, no hesitation. In 2004, together with climbing partner Stefan Siegrist, Ueli pulled off an audacious feat, climbing the Eiger, Mönch, and Jungfrau in less than 25 hours. It was a statement of intent, a declaration that he was going to redefine what was possible in the mountains. The next year, he traveled to Nepal for what he called the Khumbu Express. He soloed the north face of Khalitz and the east face of Taboche in record times, placing him firmly among the world's elite alpinists. But his legend was truly forged on the north face of the Eiger, one of the most feared walls in the climbing world. In 2007, he ascended it solo in 3 hours and 54 minutes. The climbing world was stunned. That same year, he returned and did it even faster, 2 hours, 47 minutes, 33 seconds. Almost a decade later, in 2015, he would reclaim the record yet again with a jaw-dropping 2 hours, 22 minutes, 50 seconds. To put that in perspective, the climb typically takes experienced mountaineers 2 to 3 days. The Eiger was only the beginning. Ueli turned his sights to other alpine giants. On the Grandes Jorises, he climbed the north face in 2 hours, 21 minutes. On the Matterhorn, he became the fastest person ever to ascend the north face, doing it in 1 hour, 56 minutes. Then came the Himalayas, where his feats seemed almost beyond human capacity. In 2011, he soloed the south face of Shishapangma in just 10.5 hours. In 2013, he stunned the world again by soloing the south face of Annapurna, an immense, dangerous wall, in only 28 hours round trip from base camp. That ascent earned him one of climbing's highest honors, the Piolet d'Or. And yet, controversy lingered. Some questioned whether he had truly reached Annapurna's summit on that climb, since he had no summit photos or GPS data. Ueli never lashed out at his critics. He simply stated what he had done and moved on. The award stood, and for many, his reputation as the best all-around alpinist of his generation was unshaken. But Ueli's ambitions were not confined to breaking records on single faces. In 2015, he embarked on one of the most audacious endurance challenges in mountaineering history, to climb all 82 alpine peaks over 4,000 meters in a single push, linking them entirely under his own power. He cycled between mountain ranges, ran up approaches, paraglided off summits, and traversed glaciers. He finished in 62 days, a feat that combined elite climbing skill with world-class endurance athleticism. Outside the mountains, Ueli was not the typical daredevil archetype. He was a craftsman by trade, a carpenter. He kept meticulous training logs, treated his body like a precision machine, and lived quietly with his wife Nicole. He ran marathons, flew paragliders, and believed that mastery in one arena could translate into better performance in another. Yet, for all his discipline, the mountains are unpredictable. In 2013, an altercation at Everest Base Camp with a group of Sherpas made headlines around the world. The fight, triggered by a misunderstanding on the mountain, left Ueli shaken but unbroken. He returned again and again to the Himalayas. By early 2017, he had his sights set on what he called the next step, a link-up of Mount Everest and Nuptse, climbing them in a single push without supplemental oxygen. His plan was to ascend Everest by the rarely attempted Hornby Couloir on the West Ridge, descend to the South Col, then continue directly up Nuptse. The challenge was staggering. Two of the highest mountains on Earth, connected by a traverse almost entirely above 8,000 meters, without the bottled oxygen that most climbers rely on to survive in the death zone. In April 2017, Ueli arrived in Nepal to prepare. He trained by running up from base camp to higher camps, carrying minimal gear, moving light, and fast to acclimatize his body. His friends and teammates noticed he was in extraordinary shape, perhaps the best of his career. On the evening of April 29th, he spoke casually about his plan for the next morning. It wasn't going to be an all-out record attempt, just another acclimatization run. He intended to climb nearby Nuptse, a 7,861-meter peak that forms part of the Everest Massif. It wasn't on his main objective list, but it was perfect training terrain. Before dawn on April 30th, Ueli left Camp 2 with French climber Yannick Graziani. The air was bitterly cold, the light still a dull pre-morning blue. Graziani headed toward Everest's Camp 3, while Ueli angled off toward Nuptse. He moved quickly, as always, fluid, precise, unstoppable. Other climbers saw him high on the face, a small dark figure tracing a perfect line upward. At some point late in the morning, the line ended. No one saw the exact moment, but Ueli fell, a massive lethal fall of nearly 1,000 meters down the icy slopes. The details remain uncertain. The terrain was steep and unforgiving, and even for someone of his skill, one small slip can be catastrophic. Word spread quickly through the camps. At first, there was disbelief. How could Ueli Steck, of all people, have fallen here on what seemed to be just a training climb? Helicopters were dispatched. His body was located in the western Coombe, between Camps 1 and 2. It was the first death of the Everest season that year. He was 40 years old. The news sent shockwaves through the mountaineering community. Climbers across the globe mourned the loss, not just of a record breaker, but of someone who had fundamentally reshaped what was possible in the mountains.
हिजो बिहान नै गएछ बेस क्याम्पबाट चाहिँ क्याम्प 2 अनि आज बिहान 4 बजीतिर चाहिँ क्याम्प 2 बाट चाहिँ गएर सिंगल नै पढाइ चाहिँ हिमाल चढ्थ्यो अनि माथि जाँदा जाँदा के हो भने अब धेरै अलिकति त्यस्तो डिफिकल्ट बाटो त होइन ठिकैको साधारण बाटोमा हो एकदम डिफिकल्ट रुटमा चाहिँ सधैँभरि चढ्ने मान्छे हो कि मेरो विचारमा अब त्यहाँ अलिकति राम्ररी बाटो छ भनेर अलिकति उ आफैले टेक केयरलेस गरे कि जस्तो लाग्यो कि अनि 1000 मिटर जति चाहिँ माथिबाट चाहिँ फल भयो।
In Kathmandu, his body was received with reverence. Days later, at Tengboche Monastery, in the Khumbu Valley, Buddhist monks performed a 3-hour cremation ceremony in his honor, attended by Nicole, family members, and close friends. In the days after his death, tributes poured in. Many spoke of his humility, his kindness, and his willingness to share knowledge with younger climbers. Others remembered watching him move in the mountains and feeling that they were witnessing something beyond sport, a kind of artistry that could not be replicated. Ueli had once said that his ultimate goal was not to climb faster than others, but to find perfection in the way he moved through the mountains. For him, speed was never about adrenaline or ego. It was about mastery, an endless pursuit of efficiency, precision, and elegance. Standing at the edge of his life's work, it's hard not to see the symbolism. Ueli Steck's climbs were often over in hours, but those hours contained lifetimes of preparation, discipline, and risk. He lived in moments measured not by clocks, but by the intensity of the experience. And though his life ended on the side of a mountain, it was exactly where he had always chosen to be, high in the thin air, moving quickly, chasing something only he could truly see. Even in death, his legacy continues to inspire, not only to climb, but to live with the same uncompromising dedication to one's craft, whatever it may be. The Swiss machine may have stopped, but the tracks he cut across the ice and stone of the world's greatest peaks will remain for as long as there are climbers who dare to follow. And so the story of Ueli Steck closes not with a slow fade, but with the sharp stillness of a life lived at full speed. He chased perfection where others feared to tread, carving his path across rock, ice, and history itself. The Swiss machine may be gone, yet his spirit remains in every climber who dares to move light, fast, and free. If his story moved you, remember to like this video, share it with those who dream big, and subscribe for more deep dives into the lives of legends who push the limits of human possibility.